ALS, Alternative Learning Systems.
Small Island Developing States, SIDS, they are in great trouble because of the climate change and the effects of the climate change. They are the most vulnerable countries in the world which are most affected by the climate change and the rise in the sea level and other things. In fact, this group is known as Small Island Developing States, and they are predominantly, these islands are predominantly the Caribbean islands, the islands in the South Pacific, as well as various other island groups, even in Indian Ocean, like our Seychelles, Singapore, all those islands. And in fact, in the South Pacific, the Micronesia, the Melanesia, the Polynesian island groups, the entire Caribbean groups. So all of them will come under in the Caribbean islands like the Antigua, Barbuda, Bahamas, Barbados, all those countries, and even the smaller islands across the globe. Our countries in Seychelles, then Mauritius, all are coming under that category. And in our own backyard, we have Maldives, which is one of the most vulnerable countries in the world right now because of the rise in the sea level and the global warming. So, according to the various experts, if you look at the problem, if you see the problem statements, number one, 1/3 of the population living on the land and which are living at less than 5 meters above the sea level. I mean, from the sea level, they are living within 5 meters above the sea level. The threat of the sea level rise, storm surges, and coastal destruction pose an existential risk for the countries and especially this SIDS countries. So, there is an existential risk because of the rise in sea level, because almost 1/3 of their population are living between sea level to 5 meters above sea level. Then, but they are contributing less than 1% of the world's greenhouse gases. So, that is another very interesting thing. Their destruction or rather their contribution to greenhouse gases are very less than 1% of the total greenhouse gas emissions of the world. But they are the most affected countries. That is the sad aspect of it. And these countries are the first to experience the worst and the most devastating impacts of climate change. So, they have great risk on their economy, their livelihood, their food security, everything is a problem. So, that is a particular issue. Then, most of the small islands are already have high burdens of climate sensitive diseases, such as the waterborne diseases like malaria, dengue, diarrheal diseases, etc. So, they are already victims of many of these diseases, and also the effect of the climate change, including the increase in the temperature and the frequent and the more severe weather forms are affecting their safe food supply, clean water, sanitation, etc. Also, the rising sea level are threatening the access to land in coastal areas, particularly low-lying islands. So, the land used for agriculture will no longer be usable because the salt water intrusion into their agricultural land. So, when the sea level is rising, the salt water is entering into the land and that is causing further damage to their agricultural land and the productivity of the agricultural land, especially in the low-lying areas. Then they are also affected by various diseases, especially the mosquito related diseases, like malaria, dengue, Zika. All these are sensitive to climate change and the sensitive to increase in temperature and humidity. Both are, all these diseases are because of, or rather its prevalence and the numbers are increasing because of the increase in temperature and humidity. So, during the 2015 Paris Agreement, the countries have agreed, the rest of the world has agreed to take action to limit the increase in the temperature, the global temperature within 2 degrees Celsius by the end of the century compared to what was there during the or before the Industrial Revolution. But the steps are very slow. After that only Americans have walked out of the Paris Climate Accord, as we know very well. and many countries have given big claims, tall claims were made, but ultimately they are not implementing what they are claiming. So there are many issues associated with that. And children, please note, children below the 5 years of age are under the maximum risk from climate sensitive diseases like malaria, diarrheal disease, etc. Also, floods and droughts both affect access of safe drinking water. These can lead to increased illness and deaths from waterborne diseases. And so there is an all round problems in the SIDS countries. But according to many experts and many environmental experts, these small islands can adapt to climate change with global support. If we all support, there is always a chance to adapt and find a way to mitigate and reduce the impact of the global warming. And generally it was felt that the people will have to abandon their islands and move away and migrate. So that is not entirely true. Okay, it would be a mistake to assume that their only option is to abandon their island and find a new place. That is not correct. If international community can agree on ways to limit greenhouse gases and aggressively pursue local adaptation, it may be possible to preserve many island nations and its cultures. And in fact, all SIDS countries have participated in the intended nationally determined contributions in the Paris Climate Accord. And in fact, their alliance or the Alliance of Small Island States, AOSIS, Alliance of Small Island States, have taken many action to push the global community for more ambitious planning and more ambitious targets of controlling the greenhouse gases. Then again, during the Rio de Janeiro, Rio +20 meeting which was held in 2012, the future we want, that was the Rio +20, the summit's outcome document. They in fact very clearly said that the unique vulnerability of the SIDS countries is due to their small size, remoteness, narrow resource and export base and exposure to global environmental challenges. So this future we want, that was the outcome document of Rio +20 summit, and in that they very clearly and categorically mentioned that the SIDS countries are vulnerable because of their small size, remoteness, narrow resource and export base and exposure to global environmental challenges. And many development agencies including World Bank as well as the US Agency for International Development, they are all funding many projects in these island states to adapt to climate change using both hard solutions such as sea walls, constructing levees, and also other softer solutions such as replacing coastal mangroves or installing early warning systems in case of floods. And also many steps are already taken. See, sea walls and the levees and all definitely will stop the surge of water into the land and in the island. So many steps are already taken, but many communities are already finding that they need to relocate away from the flood prone areas of their islands, which is socially and economically disruptive. Even some of the countries like New Zealand, they are considering creating a new visa for people migrating from areas affected by climate change. So that's a welcome change, but this may be a final solution for all the people who are going to be affected by climate change, but definitely a welcome change. So they are also thinking in that line. So the small islands, okay, the small island developing state, those SIDS countries are the most vulnerable, and some of them may even disappear. That is what some of the doomsday prediction people claim, like countries like Maldives may even be wiped out from the face of the globe because of the rising sea level, which is a matter of concern for everybody. And many steps are already taken, but that may not be sufficient. Whatever little steps are taken right now may not be that sufficient. There has to be a concentrated global effort by the entire community, the global community, to control the greenhouse gases. Then only these small island developing states, the SIDS countries, can be saved from the problems of global warming, rising sea level, change in the increased humidity and the temperature related diseases. So multiple problems are there, and they are the most vulnerable people in the world right now. So it's high time for the global community to take appropriate action and save these countries from destruction and misery and sufferings.